Hey team, how's it going? Let's get straight into it. Edit notes in the score editor, page 790. Select notes in the Logic Pro score editor. You can click on them or select multiple notes by shift clicking. So this is non-contiguous notes. And then of course you can just click, drag and hold and create a lasso selection. So if I click on the MIDI region and I hit P to go into the piano roll, or you can hit N to go into the score editor. You can click on these notes just like that. All right, now these are all tied together so you can see that they are being joined, but we can also click, drag, and create a selection among many notes. And conversely, we can shift click on this pair and then shift click on that pair to get the same results. To select all following, you can go to the main menu bar and select this way. I much prefer the key command Shift F. You can also Control Shift F to select all the following of the same pitch. So let's say you wanted to select everything from this point onward. You would hit Shift F, and then now everything is selected. And let's say you wanted to delete that, you could. That's one way of going about it. But what if you only wanted to select a certain pitch? Then I would click on that and I would hit Control Shift F, and that would select everything that is within that parameter, within that specific region. So it looks like we can move and copy notes as well. Option drag, which I think we went over, and then the traditional copy C, copy V. And that's, of course, is based on where the playhead is positioned. So let's go through a couple of those. Option drag. And I'm not sure where it's gathering its... I'm just looking at the help tag here. Yeah, it's being moved per division. Like I'm looking at the help tag and I can see that it's 3, 4, and then back. Yeah. So that's one thing you can do. Another thing is copy C. And then I'll move the playhead to, let's say, bar 6, and I will copy V. And that is another workflow. Let's go to page 791. You can change note pitch, duration, and velocity. So in terms of note pitch, obviously you can drag up or down, but you can also hit Option up arrow key or down arrow key. Conversely, if you want to go up an octave, you would hit Shift Option up arrow key. So let me show you what that looks like. And then in terms of velocity, you could use the velocity slider here on the left-hand side, but something else you can do is quite literally hold Control Command, access the velocity tool. That is the same one that you will find here, and drag up or down. And you can see in the help tag that adjustments are being made. I do want to point out that visually, of course, it's not going to look the way MIDI does in terms of how it cools down, in terms of a bit more of a blue hue. With the score editor, obviously, we have notation, so it's going to look and feel a little bit different. Okay, you can also go to the event inspector and change notes that way. I think they're talking about the, like for example, if I click here and I hit D, you can go to the event editor rather, and you can change notes here. So let's say I wanted to change this from an A3 to D#3, right? To change a note's length, a couple of different things that we can do here. We can edit the length parameter in the event editor as well. So Let's go over here. Let's say I click on that note. That then is highlighted here inside the inspector, and over here on the right hand side where it says length, I will increase that, say by 2 bars. Of course, we're not going to see it here, but if I go into the piano roll, you can see that that's been extended. I'll hit Command Z. There's actually a key command for that as well, and that's Shift Option right or left arrow key depending on what you're trying to do. Now bear in mind this is all determined by your nudge value here at the top of the screen. And so even though I am doing that same very thing here inside the score editor, we're not seeing it reflected, but if you look up here, you can certainly see that there's something going on. Okay. All right, we've gone over velocity. You can use the velocity slider as well. Change note articulations in the Logic Pro score editor. So there's certain patches that are going to support note articulation, studio strings, studio brass. You can change articulations for notes in the score editor. How do we do this? We're going to select a note or a series, control click a selected note, and then go to articulation. All right, so let's say let's say I'm using smart strings and I want to change the articulation of this. I would go to articulation and then find the appropriate way of expressing the instrument. Maybe I will change this. Let's see if we can go to smart strings really quick. So let's see here, Logic, studio strings rather. Okay, so we've got that set up. I'll hit V to hide. I will control click here, articulation, and we want to change this to not sustained, but spiccato, right? All right, let's hear this back. Okay, and of course that's not playing back. But anyway, you get the point there. That's something you could do inside of this editor. If you have third-party instruments, so let me Command Z and go back to Contact. You can set all of this up in advance inside of Articulation Set on the left-hand side. So I'm using cinematic strings. So if I click on that, I've already done the work of setting up all my articulations. So you would click on the MIDI event, go to articulation, and you will find those articulations here. But again, all of this has to be created inside of your articulation sets here. We can quantize inside of the score editor. We can quantize or automatically correct the timing. This is useful when regions in the tracks contain the right notes, but they're not perfectly in time. When you quantize the timing, items are adjusted to the selected note value. You can quantize the timing of regions with drums, single note instruments, chordal, or polyphonic instruments, meaning more than one. So it's not a mono synth that just plays one note at a time. You can play several voices or several notes. The time quantize controls quantized notes and other times non-destructively. The original timing is never lost, can be recalled by setting the value to off. Time quantization in the score editor works very much in the same way as time quantization in the piano roll score editor. You can also visually quantize the display of notes independent of their MIDI time quantization in the region inspector. All right, very cool. So you can independently quantize notes, or you can use the region inspector to quantize everything within that region. Quantize the timing of MIDI notes. So let's see, what do we do here? Select the notes that we want to quantize and then go to the time quantize pop-up menu. And then you can play with strength and swing. So let's say we wanted, I think most of this is quantized. It could be wrong, but I don't know. Let's say you wanted to quantize that, or maybe just this whole section here. Quantize. Let's go eighth notes. I want to try and see if I could change this and see a change, but I'm not really seeing any changes. Is this something visually that we're not going to see as well? Well, I need to see this in the piano roll. Okay, so a couple things are moving. I particularly saw these down here move. So let's go 16th, 8th note. Okay, now it's not moving for some reason. That's weird. Okay, so again, I think this is something that we're not gonna actually see, but rather listen to. So let's go ahead and play this back. So that's working quite nicely. Let's try an 8th note. Still sounds the same. Let me try something else. Okay, this definitely looks and feels different. I kind of like that. That's really nice. What a difference, huh? Listen. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll make this section a little bit different. Quarter note. So I'll do the same thing here. I'll change the feel to quarter note. And then here I'll go back to 8th notes. All right, let's see how this sounds. Absolutely wonderful. That's a great takeaway right there. I like that a lot. Again, this is quantizing individual selections, whereas the region inspector up here is going to quantize the region as a whole. If we want to edit note attributes, you can control the appearance of individual notes. This would include the size, the position, the accidentals, the stems, the beaming, interpretation. You can enhance the readability of the score and add performance information. So obviously, if you have bandmates or are presenting this to an orchestra or a conductor, there are things that you can do to help. I by no means am an expert in this field. The presentation here is really all about helping individuals that are looking to get started. It's actually my very first time opening up the score editor. And so the psychology here is to help individuals that, I don't know, perhaps are trying to get a job somewhere or need to learn this in order to perform in a band or in some kind of setup. And so this is why we are doing this, so that people don't have any trepidation and they just go straight into their aspirations. The goal is never to know everything, but how to maneuver and how to move forward and how to stay dedicated to the goal. Here at Resources for the Modern Creative, we said that we were going to do this 6 days a week until we accomplished, and that's exactly what we're going to do. There are 3 ways to change node attributes. So we can change this in the node attributes window. That's one way. You can use the functions attribute submenu or key commands. We'll do the first 2. You can change attributes for a group of selected notes inside of the submenu with the corresponding key command, but you can change attributes for only one note in the note attributes window. We're going to select one or more notes, then go to functions attributes. So let's say we want to change all of these functions. Note attributes, and here we can change accidentals, stems, beaming, automatic slurs, ties, of course, syncopation, interpretation, independent, voice staff assignment, and colors. Looks like we can double click a note head to open the note attribute window. So let's say I wanted to change this first blue note. I would double click that. That brings up the note attribute window. That's really cool. You can work with spacing, the size, really, really nice. You can also control click and find everything that you want to find in here as well. I love that Logic is always finding several ways for you to do anything. It's really nice. So let's see here. Let's change the note head. So drag a note head from the part box. You can also double click and change the note head. I'm going to do that. Let's go ahead and change that one right there. Let's go to note head and I'll just click on X. Hit OK. That's pretty cool. All right, 794. change the note size. We have done all that already. This is all basic. Let's go to accidentals. By default, the display of accidentals depends on the chosen key signature. Using note attributes, you can change flats to sharps and vice versa. The accidental position attributes defines the deviation from the accent note distance value chosen in file project score layout. Okay, so here, why this is important is sometimes there are notes that mean the same thing depending on the key, and so we can change all that by using this note attributes window. For example, if you have an enharmonic shift, this will convert G flat to F sharp or F to E sharp, etc., etc. Let's see if I could change like this one, for example. I'll go to accidentals, enharmonic shift, right? So you can see the symbol changing. Maybe let's try that one, right? That note means the same thing. You can hide accidentals if you want to. Changing the distance between the accidental and the note. We're going to do that by, again, going into the note attribute window, and then we're going to select accidental position. So let's see here. Let's force an accidental. Nothing happened. Let's hide accident. There you go. Okay. Control beaming. Notes stem direction depends on the settings. You can change these attributes to improve readability. For example, a group note's meant to be played as a voice in a polyphonic message. So we can actually change the position of the stem. Let's go down. Nice. Let's try this one. Let's see. Let's go hide. That's amazing. All right. So, of course, all of this is dependent on the time signature. Let's see. You can change the beaming of individual notes to improve readability by clarifying the rhythmic structure or phrasing of notes. You can change a note's stem direction and length. Double-click a note, then choose a value from the stem direction pop-up menu. In order to do this, the stem length cannot be changed in the note attribute window, okay? But you can change the direction, but not necessarily the length. Okay, that's interesting. So, yeah, we just played with all this. So this is pretty cool. You talk about readability. I know this is just a simple piece here, but if I go stem and move up, you can see that it's maneuvering this stem here so that it kind of displays a certain way. It's pretty cool. If you want to change the beaming, again, this is visual only. You can do that. So let's say I want to deselect this. Maybe it looks better on the page. I can unbeam selected notes. Okay, and if you want to beam something together, you would select two appropriate note values and then hit Control B, and that should give you what you need. You would like to change the interpretation settings. You can use this great feature here. I'd recommend just control clicking and either force or defeat syncopation. Again, this is a visual thing only, so it's going to help you improve the readability of the score. So again, you can either force syncopate. You can see that that moved the score a little bit. Let me Control Z that. Or you could go to syncopation and use the settings here. Same would go for interpretation. All right. Let's continue on here, 798. We're going to change the notes interpretation settings. We just saw that. Let's talk about independent notes. Independent notes are not tied to a rhythmic position, can be moved freely. This can be used to add a grace note, for example, or for other purposes. So we're going to go to functions, note attributes. Okay, and we'll select independent. So let's see what this looks and feels like. I'll zone in on this first part here. Functions, note attributes, independent, and let's go with independent grace. Wow, let's listen to this. Okay, let's do the same thing. Control click. Let's go to independent here. It looks more or less the same. And then finally, not independent. Okay, continue on here. 799, change note color. We've actually done that already, so let's continue on. Reset note attributes. Okay, so I've made a mess of this. Let's go ahead and reset all the note attributes to their default settings. If you decide you don't want to keep your changes, be aware that all symbols directly attached are going to be deleted. All markings, accents, fermatas, reset note. What do? You go to functions, note attributes, reset. You can control click and reset that specific note. So note attributes, reset all attributes. Okay, so I saw no changes, so maybe I have to select everything first and then control click. Let's go to reset note attributes. Okay, and then now we're back to square one. No more colors on here. Everything is back to normal. There's a feature called Diatonic Input feature. Allows you to quickly add notes that will be assigned to the scale of the song, to the key of the song. Of course, once you enter these notes, they can be altered chromatically after the fact. If you've been following the series, you know that you can lock your screen sets, and this feature will also be locked. To access it, go to Edit, Diatonic Insert, and then as you add notes, you will see that they will conform to the key of the song. All right, we've talked about ties. Let's go to 801, add and edit tuplets in the Logic Pro score editor. You can add and edit tuplets, groups of notes evenly divided over a specific rhythm. The most common tuplet is the triplet, a group of 3 notes, what typically occupies the space of 2 or 4. The symbol for tuplet is grouped together with the symbols for triplets, and you will find that here. In some cases, you need to choose an appropriate display in the region inspector. You use the N tuplet object for the display of other tuplets. All right, to change how a tuplet is displayed, drag the N tuplet symbol from the part box onto the first note, and then you will start to change its values. To set the appropriate parameters, you have the tuplet number of notes. So I believe this means 5 inside of 4. The time value, 8th notes, the note value, which is, oh no, I'm sorry, that's 8th notes. And then hide bracket, select to hide the bracket over the tuplets. You can hide the numbers. Okay, so let's drag this in. We will grab the N tuplet symbol from here. Okay, now we see tuplet. And let's do 3 inside of 2 8th notes, and then we will hit OK. All right, and that's how you would graphically show this. Of course, it's the same note. We're just showing the rest values. So it all depends on the score, but let's look at this as it plays back. Let's say we wanted to do the same here. We would drag this over. Okay, this time I'll do 5 inside of 4. Let's see what that looks like. Okay. And if you want these tuplets to play legato, you would go to functions, note events, and you would convert sustained pedal to note length, and you see that that now is being sustained. So that's going to look a little bit different inside of here, but it essentially does the same thing. We don't see note force legatos. So functions, note events. So this is a nice option to pull off the same thing. Let's go to 803. If you want to edit the tuplets, you would double click the end tuplet number and then redefine the settings. So I will double click and redefine the settings, and you can also just delete it as well. To convert notes to grace notes, go to functions, note attributes independent. Functions, note attributes independent, and we will assign these independent, and you can see that that has changed. Again, all visual. To delete notes, you can simply click delete. We can access the eraser tool to do more of the same. We can also click on several notes, go to edit, delete, and that should do the same thing. All right, let's go into automation. So let's say we were creating a fade here. I would click the key command A. I would select volume and then create 2 nodes to, in effect, create a fade as the song begins. Probably better suited if it was extended out like this. All right, let's see how this sounds. And remember, if you have multiple automation parameters working, you can hit Command Y to toggle back and forth. All right, let's work on adding lyrics and text. When you're scoring a song for solo voice or for a vocal ensemble, you can add lyrics, which are automatically aligned to notes in the score. Other types of text, such as dynamics, other performance indicators, can also be added to the score. You can add and edit text in the score editor and precisely control the position of the text in the score. Score editor includes automatic text for song name, date, other information. You can also add global text that appears in both the full score and in each individual part. All right, so let's add in lyrics. How do we do that? Looks like we can align lyrics, and then after adding lyrics, you can adjust their vertical and horizontal position. We're working with multiple staves. Be careful to add lyrics to the correct MIDI region. It's recommended that you insert lyrics in the linear score view. So let's go ahead and set that up in advance. So view, linear, awesome. Linear score view also makes it easier to select several lyric objects by dragging and changing their positions. Let's go to page 806. Drag the lyric object below the first note of the melody. Okay, so let's go to the part box and let's look for the word lyric. Let me get out of automation mode, perhaps resize the piano roll, zoom in a little bit tighter, grab not text, but lyric here. I think I dragged it in too low. Let's do that one more time. Okay. Now this is working, but it's not necessarily ideal. But let's see what this sounds and looks like as it plays back. All right, so let's drag this over here. And the score is going to adapt, which is pretty cool. All right, team. Hey, thank you so much for the opportunity to work with you on this. The next time I see you, we will be covering textiles and a whole lot more. Stay in tuned with the series. Go ahead and hit the notification bell so we can continue on this journey using Logic Pro. All right, guys, we'll see you tomorrow. Cheers.